I'll call the Guthrie Planning Commission to order for November 2nd, 2015, November 12th, excuse me. Could we have a roll call, Mr. Mosley?
Yes, Chairman Powell, absent. Commissioner Chappell,
Here.
Commissioner Coffin, here. Commissioner French, absent. And Commissioner Ogden.
Present.
All right, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Public comments and greetings to you all. It's really nice to have this many folks here seeing us. Council gets that. It's kind of nice to have you do it for us. Would we assume that these public comments have to do with a couple of our applications this evening? Correct? So may we hold those as we go forward the applications?
If you so choose, yes.
Could we have approval of previous minutes from October 8th, please?
I make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of October 8th. Could we have a roll call on that?
You have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Okay, our first discussion and approval is the approval of an application 2015-2011-3256 regarding a request for a special use permit at a property located at 221 West Johnson Drive. Could we have a staff report, please, Mr. Mosley?
Planning Commission, you might remember that this was a topic of discussion last year, roughly maybe 13 months ago. I know that Renee Spinetto, my predecessor, had kind of led the forefront on it with the community. Kind of the more detailed history, Ordinance 3265 requires a special use permit to be issued for construction of a storage unit for commercial use. Again, residential accessory buildings and everything like that is not covered in 3265, but 3265 does require a special use permit be obtained for construction of a commercial storage unit. That special use permit would come on recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council. And so this won't be the final time we hear this. It will be heard again on Tuesday at 7 at the City Council meeting held right here at this location.
Okay, I know we had 16 letters out. Have we had any responses?
You have not had any responses submitted to city staff, but I do see at least 2 references to it on your public comment. And so if you'd like to be in that process.
Should we do that first, or do we have an applicant here who would like to say anything?
Is the applicant here? I'm sorry. Okay, I thought so. Okay, if you'll join us at the podium, the south podium. Thank you.
My name's Justin Small, and I work for the commercial division of the owner that's going to be for these storage units. And then some of the concerns that we've had in other units on putting these up is the traffic or the people in and out of these facilities. And if we were to put up 4 homes there would actually be more road traffic going in and out of homes every day. Filling these facilities roughly takes a year, and then people going to those facilities when someone owns one is less than 5 times a year. So we're talking starting with 40 to 50 facilities. We're not doing RVs. It's mostly just small 12 by 12 facilities and smaller. So that's most of the complaints that people have for them. And I'm open to answer any questions that you guys have.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No.
No problem.
And to the members of the Planning Commission, I want to point out one just note for clarification. On the application that you see in your packet, it was originally checked off that the applicant was looking for a rezone. That's not what we had discussed. The applicant can, of course, apply for a rezoning if he so chooses to, but the requirement on his part for the construction of a storage unit is going to be the other, which you see checkmarked and special use permit in my handwriting. So just to give you that clarification.
Okay.
Do you have any questions for the applicant?
Commissioners, any questions?
It looks like how big are these buildings? I know it's on here, but refresh my memory.
It's roughly 100 by 20.
100 by 20, and there's how many of them?
We haven't broke it down to how many we're going to have total, but it'll roughly be between 50 and 60 units, ranging from a closet to a 12 by 12.
But how many buildings, actually?
Oh, we're starting off with just one. It'll be one.
I'd like to know where that's gonna be located.
Again, that's, we need to serve all questions through the planning commission.
Any other questions for?
But the plans that we see here, it looks like you've got plans for
One row.
possibly 12. Is that correct?
One row building,
Well-
so it's one building with dividers.
This is one building. Okay.
Well, this is showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This is showing 12 units that are 20 by 80, typical.
Correct.
And that is one row of building. Is that what we're saying?
Correct.
And then the dividers. I'm with you. Okay, I understand.
No, it's one.
One
That's-
large building
One.
with 12 openings, with 12
Okay.
departments.
12 bay doors, I'd assume.
Correct. But we're
20 by
open
80.
to, you get them approved like that through an architect, and if we change them, we go back and get them stamped to where it might be 2 bays, 2 doors inside one of those bays.
I'm noting a picture of some fencing here. I don't see where that fencing is at. Where would that fencing be that you have,
It'll
you're
be
showing
around
here?
the entire property.
Around the whole property?
And this building is how big?
Is it 100 by 20?
I believe so on those plans, yes.
How's that possible?
Well, if the units are each 20 by 80,
How's that
the
possible?
whole length has got to be much longer than 100 feet.
I'd have
Do you know
to-
what we're looking at?
If
Would
you
you
Not
like to-
offhand, I
Would you
I
like to
see-
look at what
yes.
we're looking at?
take a look at the,
I was actually in a meeting this
these,
morning.
yeah, these,
Yeah, I mean, it shows 12, 20 by 80s. It's what it looks like to us.
and the 20 has got to be the width here, and the 80 the length, so 12 times 20 plus, you know, you're some 300, you're a football field or so long. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was talking about a different project. So yeah, those are 20, and they're gonna be 20 feet between them,
And 20 feet between them.
and 20 feet between them, right, so a vehicle will go through them.
Okay, so now we
Right,
might,
there's gonna be 12 different
might say
Not just
40
one building.
times
It's
12.
gonna be 12 facilities.
Okay,
Okay. All right,
all right.
any other questions?
I don't have any more questions.
So is the diagram that they're seeing right now correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Except we're missing a few dimensions here. It would have been nice to have known the total length, by the way.
I turned one in, I know when we originally did, from our architect, so I don't know if that's in your packet.
Is there any way to put that on the screen so people could see? what
It
we're-
was.
Oh, was it?
It was. Sorry, you were showing him
There-
the
Oh, that's-
diagram. There it is again.
Okay, good, thank you. Since I'm the new guy here, can you give me a little background on why this keeps coming back to us and exactly, I know Renee dealt with this some and I wasn't here, and
Right.
so give me a little.
The brief history that I can provide of why, of the last conversation that the city was involved with was actually upstairs during a council meeting in which the neighborhood and the applicant met face to face after a workshop, kind of isolating themselves, trying to work something out. We hadn't heard anything as a result from that. At least I haven't. I don't know if Renee did, but we hadn't heard anything as a result of that until we were met with this application again in the past couple months. But the city did recognize the situation and understand that there were some complaints with multiple construction opportunities with these storage units and put the ordinance in place, just so that it would require a little bit stronger review.
It would appear then if the dimensions are, you say with 20 foot between, we are looking at a length of building there, the overall length at approximately 550 to 600 lineal feet, a couple of football
It
fields.
was, it left the city requirements from the street and the back of the property
Right.
to drive a vehicle through,
Right.
so.
Are there any more questions for the applicant at this time?
I don't have any.
After hearing some discussion from the 2 or 3 folks that have signed up, if you do have any questions, you can recall on the applicant again if you so choose.
Okay.
All right,
Okay,
thank
what
you.
we would like to ask under the public comments, we ask that one of you represent the group, and we can give you up to 5 minutes, is that
5
correct,
minutes.
Joe?
5 minutes.
To talk, so,
That's
If
that's
there's-
one
if
of
there's
you
several of you.
for each side.
Yeah, for
And
each
so,
side, yeah.
all right. I have Marcia Dewar signed up. Is that you, ma'am? Okay.
I'll give you a brief history since you all weren't here last time when we did meet. The council tasked us afterwards to work with him in good faith and see if we could come to a conclusion. Because Mr. Ruggs did say to us, well, I don't want to put something there that you all don't want. To be clear, this is in the middle of a cul-de-sac residential neighborhood, not on the street. And all the homes there are residents, single-family residents, owner-occupied except one. And when we met, we shook hands. Mr. Ruggs said, okay, I'll meet with some home developers. He came out, we made agreements, and for the last 17 months, 15 months, the neighbors have been taking care of his property even because he said he was working with us, including mowing, trimming, so he wouldn't get fined anymore. He hasn't had a dime. It's been on our dime, our gas, our mowers because of this. Then we get blindsided with this that he's not going to do that. So brief history, we tried our best on that. Now, to tell you
He
about,
was not going to,
he even brought a home developer out there.
oh, he was talking about also making it residential.
Right, because the difficulty with this is, we were kind of victims, as you might say, of the annexation when it happened and just blanketed C2. It was a residential area already with homes already there. And I can tell you that we have 16 homes right now, one way in, one way out at Johnson Drive. Our street is only 16 feet wide, and by comparison, I can tell you, industrial's 25 feet. We have runoff issues, flood issues. The city's snowplow even got stuck on our street. So we are concerned about the traffic, but we're concerned about our homes and our home values as well. This is directly across from my house. And this lot, we don't have a problem with selling homes. Homes sell within 2 months when they're built or open on our street. So that's not the problem. We also have someone who will be landlocked behind this because he has one egress into his home right there across the edge of that property. But we looked into it. The annexation suggested that when we were annexed, it would follow the urban residential coding. It wasn't done. It was a long time ago. The master plan, the maps show us existing residential one, single-family residential, shows future planning, single-family residential, even has plans for a neighborhood park there. So to put this commercial, I don't care what kind of commercial, it doesn't make sense. The special use permit also says that you should have the abutting properties have it in common. What it's in common to is nothing there. It's all homes. And we all work really hard for our homes. These are single families, retired people, and people with young children. And if you come and drive, you'll see we take good care of our property. But as far as the legal part of it, we do have some recourse on that. And we are concerned with it. And we're concerned that we were lied to when we made a good faith effort, and people are out a lot of money for that. But the guidelines for the classification and districting all put it in there. Right. To the maximum extent possible, sub-areas of annexed territory should be given zoning district classification that will allow existing use to continue in conformance with the zoning ordinance of the city of Guthrie. Any territory previously zoned should be placed in an equivalent zoning district category. No property, lot, tract, or parcel within the city shall be designated on the comprehensive plan as appropriate for central business district zoning district, except that which abuts another property, lot, tract, or parcel so designated. These are all homes. We even signed a petition last time when we went to the council. Every single individual homeowner and landowner signed it to have ourselves rezoned so that we wouldn't have this problem. And then when we worked in good faith with Mr. Ruggs, we thought our problem wasn't going to be there. And we will take whatever recourse we have to stop this, because it makes no sense to be C2 at all, but to be a mini storage. We have pictures of his other ones. They're metal buildings on gravel. It's not going to fit in our neighborhood. It's not going to be accepted in our neighborhood. To say you'll have 5 times a year, ask Barry Cogburn if his traffic is 5 times a year. Come on. But a 16-foot wide road means they're going to turn into my yard when they have a trailer pulling into that drive. Let's just be honest. And that's not acceptable to me either. We haven't complained about our road not being maintained and widened as it should have been. We maintain it ourselves as much as we can, but it's a city road. So we're not accepting of this. We're willing to work with him, but not anymore. His first comment actually was flippantly, "Who wants to buy it?" And then his last comment to one of the neighbors the other day when she said, "What's going on?" He said, "Look, I can put anything there I want. You're lucky I'm not putting low-income apartments." So when we go in good faith with someone, take care of his land for him at your expense for over a year, and then have this come up again, we're ready to take legal recourse if we need to. We hope we don't have to. We really pray that you will follow the zoning ordinances and follow the master plan.
Marcia, I'm going to take a brief moment to just remind our planning commissioner members about, and then I'm going to allow you kind of a
Absolutely.
closing statement. This is considered a public comment, and so there is not, in accordance with Open Meetings Act, there's not the ability for us to go back and forth with questions for the public comment. The applicant himself, you can. But I'm going to allow Marcia 30 seconds more for kind of a closing statement.
I don't think I need one. I think I've made my point, and if I haven't, I'd be glad to file anything that I need to file for that. But our neighborhood has shown up because this is important to us. I don't think it would even have made sense on some level if he had been on Division. He's not. You're 4 lots in to a residential area. And landlocking a neighbor as well, if he puts that in there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Dirk. Do we have any comments from the other side,
For an opposing side other than the applicant.
opposing side, other than the applicant?
All right, thank you. Commission members, do you have any questions for the applicant at this time? Or is anyone ready to make a motion?
Do we have a motion?
I move that because of the comprehensive plan and because of the master plan, and also because I did have the opportunity to go out and look at this property, and it would definitely impact the property values of the neighborhood. I wouldn't want to buy a house there after it went in. And I make a motion that we deny.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second to deny the application.
And just for clarification again, that will be a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the City Council next Tuesday at 7 in the same room of a denial for the special use permit.
That is-
You have a motion and a second. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item.
That's a first.
Yeah. I guess we can go to coffee tomorrow. Discussion and approval of application 2015-2011-3277 regarding a request for a metal accessory structure at the property located at 4807 South Sooner Road. A staff report, please, Mr. Mosley.
Real brief, this is kind of one of those outliers, similar to what we're finding in the application before. It's a residential use in a commercially zoned area. And so the commercial standards for design guidelines would actually be applied into this. And that means no more than 60% of the exterior be a metal material. So just for a refresher on that, and I believe the applicant is here.
Okay, again, I see 9 letters went out. Did we have any?
We did not have any comments from the public at this one.
Thank you. Could we have the applicant come up, please? Yes, fine, right there. Name and,
Andrew Simonton.
Andrew what?
Simonton.
Okay, you want to tell us a little bit about what we got going? And
Well, I brought some pictures to kind of explain sort of what I'm trying to do. You guys have the one of
The building.
we have this.
Yeah, the red and beige.
that's what I'm trying to do, although with
Can we get him a mic, please?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to put in pretty much this structure right here, but with two overhead doors on either side here. The reason for that is right now, this is my current situation. I have my truck parked outside. I've got my motorhome parked outside. Here's my current shop that I have. It's completely full of all the lawn equipment I've had to buy since I bought this acreage. So I'm trying to clear it out. Here's some of the surrounding structures that abut right up to my property. And I'm sure my neighbors are tired of looking at my motorhome and pickup and trailers and things sitting in the yard. So I'm trying to tidy up, and I'm trying to put in a nice looking structure here.
You're saying this would be the structure that you're looking, and would this be open in the middle? Do I assume that's where your motorhome would be, probably?
That would be open in the middle. On the sides, it'll be closed with a overhead door on either side.
On these?
Actually, I think I'm gonna do that color. That was my plan anyway. And I do have a couple of I've really only got two neighbors that would be immediately affected by this, and they're both here to support me.
What's the size of the structure we're talking about?
It is 36 by 42.
Thirty-six by 42.
Well, it's kind of it's not just a standard out of here. We kind of designed it, but it's actually 36 by 42. And I came in to apply for the permit, and I was told that, I talked to a guy that, I can't remember there was somebody up there that day that, what was he, one of the inspectors? And we had a discussion that I needed to put it on piers. I've actually since decided part of it will be on a concrete foundation and the rest will be on concrete piers. I was told that that's what I need to do to get it up to code, to pass inspections. I'm trying to go through the proper process here and put it up according to city code and be on the level with this.
So we're looking at about 1,500 square feet, give or
I
take.
think it's roughly that, yeah.
What's sort of the setback from the property line?
Well, I haven't really decided yet. That's something I wanted to discuss with you guys. I'd like to kind of put it fairly, I would guess maybe 10 or 20 feet from the fence here and 10 or 20 feet from the property line here. It'd be but I don't know. That's something I need to look into.
And
You know what the
barring,
process are
with
offhand?
approval, construction can help him with that.
Okay.
Yeah, and the dirt work might kind of dictate that. I'm on a little bit of a slope, and he has to put in a swale around it, so. But it's going to be kind of up there in that corner is where I plan to locate it. It was just looking at the property, I think that's where it'll look the nicest.
Do you have any other comments, commissioners? Now the 60% metal, we can only go 60% metal on that zone, is that correct?
Well, that's why he's here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why he's here.
I'm in a rural, I mean, I got one neighbor that's a goat, you know,
You understand what we mean by 60, only 60% of it can be,
His-
40% of the elevation, the square footage of material has to be other than metal.
His application is actually for a variance to allow for the all metal.
Right.
right. Yeah, it would be really cost prohibitive for me to try to brick it or something. I mean, I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah, your home is brick and
My home is brick, my shop,
Stone.
of course, is steel.
but of course, you understand that was probably grandfathered in before you even purchased the property.
Right,
And that's why that is in there that way.
right. I mean, I'm looking to improve the look of my property and get things indoors, and I try to keep the place looking nice, and I'm trying to be a good neighbor.
And I went and looked at it, and it does look nice.
Well, I got a ways to go.
I will tell you
I'm
that
working on it.
the problem that we have, Mr. Simonton, and I don't know if you've heard this, but, you know, our last meeting, we were presented with two metal buildings
Right.
that there were people that were there to complain about. You don't have anybody here to do that.
I have people here
And that,
to,
exactly.
Right.
And if you happen to see the meeting last month, there were 5 of us here, and it was pretty much unanimous that we feel like as planning commissioners, that, that our role is to enforce existing code. And we just make a recommendation. This gets passed on.
okay?
And in fact, the objection this is a little different because you are in a C2, but according to C2 code, it can only be 60% metal.
Correct.
And we denied 2 all-metal buildings last month.
Right.
And,
One of which was located in a neighborhood that did have
yes,
people opposed to it.
Right.
The other one, I guess is probably the same situation I'm
Very similar.
potentially
and
facing.
They were residential.
there may seriously be some, and I know that the city council talked about tweaking some of these rules for acreages, but as written, the code doesn't allow it. So that's the concern that we have. We don't want to show favoritism to somebody. We denied a gentleman that, that was very upset last week that he
Well,
wanted
I'm
a
gonna be that way
720
myself.
square
This-
foot building.
Right, I'll have to pursue this further. I mean.
Right,
this-
right.
When I bought the property, this was my plan.
Right,
I've been living in Edmond with my motorhome in storage that I was
Right.
paying for, and this solved a lot of problems for me.
right. And like I said, regardless of what we say, you'd still have to go to council.
Right.
Is there any?
So that's my concern.
Is there any other, is there any possibility that you could consider some sort of coverage of 40%, give or take, nobody's gonna come out and measure it to the nth degree, with a different material over the seal, and I understand that's an additional
Or
cost.
even,
Right?
Where you could, yes, thank you, where you could meet these qualifications. As you hear Commissioner Chappell say, we're trying to adhere to ordinances and statutes and things that have been in place now since like 2009 or before. And you note your other building, a nice-looking building, we went out to see it.
gonna be one
But-
of the better metal buildings.
Obviously it is.
Right.
But obviously it was done before, maybe perhaps before
Or it was-
annexation.
Or
We're
the
still-
codes were
Or
ignored.
the codes were ignored. Is there, can you give any thought to that? We have encountered that where somebody actually didn't, first we couldn't approve it on C2. And then he came back and realized that, well, I can do something for that 40%, give or take. And we were able to approve that.
I don't know what that would mean cost-wise.
And to be clear, it doesn't
I don't
have
know
to be
how you make it
masonry.
Look right.
Is that right?
Correct.
What, pardon me?
So to be clear, it doesn't have to be masonry, the other 40%.
No, it could, I mean,
It
if,
could be wood,
if
it could be,
Popsicle sticks to it and.
it could be masonite.
yeah, it could be barn siding, it could be,
If you did barn siding on the front
Yeah.
part of it, or, I mean, whatever you had to get to the 40%,
Obviously something that
wouldn't-
complements your home.
you would only need to,
Well, this is a long ways from my home.
Well,
I mean, it's a
It's
kind of a
true.
different deal. I mean, I would consider that if that's what I had to do. I think the building looks nice like it is.
Great.
And my plan is to put some plants around it and really, I'm trying to do a lot of work on my property right now. But I would consider that if that's what I had to do. I don't have a vision for what I would do at this point, but if that's what I needed to do, one way or another, I need to get my stuff. Right now, I got neighbors here that are looking at my motorhome sitting out in the yard, and,
Right.
I mean, I gotta do something.
there was a gentleman that wants to speak. Is that all you have to offer, Mr. Simonson?
That's,
You made a good argument.
Yes, you
all
did.
right, thank you.
Is there somebody who would like to speak? Now, again, understand that we can have one for, one against, and so. Your name, we need a name, please.
My name is Joel Parmenter. I'm his neighbor. I live north of him. And I know this man, he's gonna build a nice building, but in this neighborhood, he bring you all them pictures I don't see why that would detract from the property, but you got the pictures up there, and they haven't detracted from the property. The price is still up down there. Like that lady said, them houses go like that. See all them buildings you see is on them properties, it doesn't matter, it still go pretty high. And when I moved down there, they thought I was trash, didn't want that mobile home back there. And my daughter got in a fight with a neighbor, but I made my property clean. But, that didn't bring the value down, all them houses down. That property been there since 1965, and property still high down there. So I don't see why that building where he's gonna put it, it'd be no different than the rest of them down there. They all blend together. That's it for me.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. Is there anybody of an opposing view? Okay.
Mr. Simonson, would you mind joining us at the podium one more time? I'm sorry. And this is just for my clarification on how we proceed. Right now, what are your concerns about moving forward with meeting the 60% rule? Are you opposed to that? Are you still?
What are we used to, 60% or was it 40%?
40.
Okay,
No more than 60% of your building of your exterior can be metal.
Can be metal.
So
of the surface or the exterior?
your exterior,
sides?
the exterior sides.
Not
Yes, I'm
including
sorry.
the roof and,
Not including the roof
okay,
or your doors.
okay.
Because if you're thinking that you can find an alternative,
Mr.
Just as-
Simon, so often what happens is, you're bringing in something that, probably nobody wants to say no to you. But
Right.
then we're thinking about next month. We're thinking about next month, the guy that comes in and only wants a 720 square foot building. But it's in a residential area. And what we've been doing as a body is we're looking at the codes and we are approving and denying specifically by what the code is.
Okay.
And we're not approving, we're only recommending. I want to remind everybody about that.
and
Well,
so
But if you could come up with, you wouldn't have to go any further. You could build this building, if you put
Right.
masonite, replacing some of the metal siding, paint it the same color, you'd be good to go with no further argument.
right, we could consider it a withdrawn application, and you could honestly start construction tomorrow with permitting through our office and everything like that. I just mean that depending on how you feel about meeting that rule depends on if we still need to take it to city council on Tuesday.
What do you think
If we
should
can,
happen at the city council meeting? Are they just going to enforce whatever this code is? that-
the planning commission can speak for their recommendation only. I can't speak for city council.
I had no idea when I bought the place that it was even commercially zoned. As far as I could tell, I'm in a rural neighborhood.
Well, right now,
but
that's actually the most helpful thing for you.
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, because if it was R1, it couldn't be any metal.
Would be like what we run.
Unless it's under unless it's under 250 square feet. Now, there are a lot of buildings in town that have been grandfathered,
Right.
but under 250 square feet, you don't, is it 250 or 200?
250
Something like that.
250.
on this.
You can,
Well, I need a building, one way or another, and obviously, it's a stretch for me to do this. I mean, this is a lot of money, you know? It
I
takes
understand.
me a long time to come up with this kind of money.
I understand.
And I just don't know, I've never looked at it from that, putting brick on does it have to be all the way around this thing? I mean, what if I did a brick veneer across part of the front or something? It has to be 40% of the overall structure?
That could be something that would be, I guess, maybe negotiated in this, in the motion that would be made.
And I don't know how that would look. Maybe there's a better way. I'm trying to make a nice looking building.
If we do negotiate that, that will be a recommendation to the city council. And I'm just trying to lay out everything so that you're very aware of the timeline for both scenarios, for all scenarios given.
And the requirement isn't specific. It doesn't say 40% of each wall.
You're absolutely right.
So you can do 2 walls with some other material, or you can do a wainscoting around the whole thing, the bottom 4 feet or whatever it.
And if if a perfect example of this is for a lot of people that want to look is like the new Loves. There is a metal building back behind Loves. And there's brick on the bottom, and then there's rock going up the corner sides.
Right,
And of course, it's commercial.
Right.
But that's the district you find yourself in, like you said. Now, if you're residential, metal, not even any metal,
Wouldn't be
unless
talking
it's under
about-
250.
well, and that's fine for some buildings, I want this, the whole point of this, I'm trying to make it look nice, and I want it to look like a
And I
barn.
think it- and I
It's gonna
think
look
it will.
weird if I put a brick veneer on the bottom of it. So what if I did this? What if I took, let's look at that plan there real quick.
Can we make sure and have him a mic, please?
Give me one.
Yeah, give me one.
My plan was to leave the back of this open. But what if I enclosed the back right there, and then I had them build it out, and then completely just cover the whole back of this thing with masonite or whatever it is, where all that's gonna be behind it is pine tree, or cedar trees.
It would be the least visible.
To be the least visible, it'd still look the same, I just have to stick a bunch of, might cause rust problems and stuff in the future, but hey, I wouldn't have to look at it, and it would be complying with.
It would be complying with the code.
Right.
can
and
handle
I
that
bet
with
if I
you?
enclose
Yeah,
that back.
he absolutely can handle
just
that with
covering the
staff.
back of this would account
And you
for
could- and you could-
40% of the building.
And you
Yep.
could handle that with staff, and
With
you wouldn't
staff.
have to go to city council.
Right.
And you've got your building.
Weird, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's the way it is.
And we
It's
can
about
look-
compromise.
As long as I make it really ugly on the backside, I'm,
No, it'll make it attractive there too.
well, I mean, how do you make it attractive? I mean,
Well, it's pretty attractive as it is. And
all right, but I mean, if I'm gonna put some, I think the steel looks nice, the way I've seen these buildings and the way I've tried to design it, it'll look good. I just don't know what I would cover it with that would look good
can you
without.
talk with the manufacturer and ask them what they might, I'm sure they've run into this before. Perhaps you could ask them. Maybe
Well,
some,
yeah, I definitely want it all built out in steel, and then I'd just come in,
and veneer over it.
and,
Some kind of veneering over it.
yeah, just,
Another great example of this on the, for the folks familiar with the west side of Guthrie is Guthrie Eye Care, on the north side of Highway 33. It's extremely well done, in my opinion. I drove by it
what
again
did they
this.
do?
The rock complement along with the metal and then the, other materials as
Just when
well.
you pass Cotterill School on the right, there's the, what is it, Farmers Insurance? And then it's a new building, commercial building,
Okay.
metal. But there's some brick or rock elements.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to do brick or rock. You just, if
Right.
you threw up some masonite.
What is masonite?
Masonite's just, it's just real cheap siding.
And I could just maybe
There's a
glue
garage.
it up there?
I would think it could probably be glued on. That's why I
I'm
think,
gonna drill a bunch of holes.
No,
in this
There's a
thing.
garage on the west side of town that
Uh-huh.
was just placed behind the old fire station.
Okay,
And I think it has masonite siding on
so
it.
I could just glue it up there and then just kind of paint it to make it look like it.
well,
so that
it
we
even
have-
comes in colors, and it's good looking. It has a nice look to it. You get away from the metal look is what, and even though this is nice metal looking, you at least can meet the criteria.
And part of the reason these ordinance was written too is, I mean, if you go like out to the drive-in and you look at all the metal buildings look great for about 40 years.
Right,
And then not so great anymore.
Rust.
You can look at like Wayner's on Oklahoma Street. And I wasn't around when these ordinances were written. I wasn't involved, but I know that that's part of the, it's,
Intent.
the logic behind it is the comprehensive plan that the young woman that spoke earlier, and it's a template for the vision of Guthrie's growth. And, also, protecting neighborhoods, existing neighborhoods from metal structures that a lot of time dwarf the houses and, so anyway.
okay.
If you believe that this is an alternative that you, would like to consider, and again, okay.
Yeah,
Is that right?
I gotta do something.
Okay, then we will consider this application withdrawn, and you can get with me. I've got another card for you if you need, and we can talk about what alternatives there are.
Do we need to make any kind of a motion to that effect?
Not if you would.
If you'll
What
just
do I
con-
do, just
if-
come to the come see you again at the permitting office?
Yeah, give us a call. I got a card for you right here.
Okay.
All right, thank you. You do not need a motion.
For all due
you for
respect
working
and
with
fairness
us.
to him,
So-
can we also at least consider, as they did here, the council did here, that he would not pay another application permit, that his,
He hasn't,
Should
has he made one now?
He won't need an application because he's going to be meeting and he won't have a variance. Should he decide that this wouldn't
There you go.
be considered, we can consider this application reactive.
yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our next discussion is this discussion approval of the preliminary and final plat for Canyon Bluff Phase 6. Could we have a report on that, Mr. Mosley, from staff?
Yeah, this is, again, Phase 6. It's already zoned for PUD, plan unit development. The zoning is in accordance, and again, Phase 6, we do have a representative for the development here.
All right.
And again, I noticed it went to the Guthrie leader and 49 letters, no less than 49 letters. Did we have any responses on
We
that?
did not, we did not.
So we have somebody for the applicant, and can talk to us a little bit about this, please?
And gentlemen, I have a larger version of the plat right there for your review if you'd like, but you should have had it included in your packets, I
We
believe.
do.
Yep,
It is.
it's there too. So any questions or comments, the representative's here.
I'm Bob Powell. I'm the father of the developer of Canyon Bluff Edition. And he's out of the state right now, and he asked me to come represent him tonight and answer any questions you might have of the plat. This is the sixth phase of Canyon Bluff Edition. And we're using the same engineer that did the first 5 phases. It's an engineering firm out of Stillwater. It's very good, and they've done a good job. No complaints with them. And as you'll see, the plat is complete, and we're ready to move on with it. We were very unfortunate last week to have a rainstorm of 2.5 inches, and we got a little mud out there in the street, and after that, well, then the windstorm comes yesterday, and we get a little dust, but we brought out a water truck, and we started watering down the section there. It's, I believe, almost 3 acres of land, so it's not a real big area. But we've got the streets graded in now, the house pads all graded in, and we're ready to start pouring streets, and the sewer line people and water people are there now with their equipment. They're just waiting for approval of the Planning Commission and the City Council, so we can move on with getting this final section of Canyon Bluff Edition done.
Questions, commissioners?
We still have an Ernest and Naomi Clark signed up. Are you present still?
Yeah, we're neighbors there.
Okay, okay.
We just wanted to know for sure what was happening. We
Okay.
thought we knew, but I
Okay.
thought,
For those at home that can't hear him, the neighbor, Mr. Ernest Clark just responded that he just wanted to know what was happening regarding the letter that he received.
we talked to Doug, so we pretty much know, but I wanted to see the plat.
Okay. And he's had communication. He's had communication with the developer on this. They just wanted to see the plat. The plat is available for review up here at right in front of the DS.
Mr. Powell, one thing, Doug happened to call me to bring me up to date on a couple of questions. He knows that I'm an engineering nerd. And he said there'd been a call after the heavy rain, and of course, we don't get those very often, but there it comes.
Very
And then the wind afterwards. And that one or two of the neighbors had been concerned about some of the mud. And possibly I could ask you, we did a little bit already, to ask you about what you've done with your engineering people to ensure that the drainage will be handled out at the end of the cul-de-sac. Could you maybe tell the rest of the commissioners? I got a little input from Doug, and I think you did a little bit better for me tonight.
Well, we were right in the process of grading it out, grading in the streets and the lots when the rains came, and so we didn't have time to stop the flow of the water out of the addition. But since then, Doug has been out there with the contractor, and they've put a berm all the way down the south side, about 5 or 6 inches high, plus putting in the visqueen barriers so to keep all of the mud and water from going on any neighbor's property.
I guess what I was really asking you was what you and/or your engineers have done to ensure when it's finally done that all of the runoff that has been calculated will happen with the new development stuff is going to be properly handled out of the end of that cul-de-sac as you spoke.
Well, we're taking the water out of that section the same way it's coming out now, so right now it's coming out on top of the ground. We want to put in concrete, like tin horns that concrete, underground and take it out from the street. You'll see there's a cul-de-sac there, and that's where all the water drains into this cul-de-sac. We can take the water from the end of the cul-de-sac down south, across the road. The previous city manager approved us cutting the street and putting it under the street, as long as we paid for it.
And just to add a little bit of staff insight on that, we actually spoke with our engineer who is waiting to receive that same information
City
from,
engineer?
yes, Myers Engineering was waiting to hear that from Ghost, I believe is the name.
Yeah,
I'm sorry if I
Ghost,
butchered that.
G-O.
But I'd like to confirm that from city staff's end.
And I think as long as we have that assurance, and again, is that detailed on the plans? Okay.
And we had to go to the state with the environmental people, and we got the email back yesterday to the city of Guthrie. I haven't seen it yet, but Cody says you have it. They approved it, and we've paid our fee to them, so everybody's happy.
Okay, well, thank you for that clarification. Any other questions, commissioners?
And just for the sake of the neighborhood and the tenants around, the city council will be voting on the preliminary and final plat as two separate items next Tuesday night. Should this, regardless, actually, if the recommendation is approved or not, they will still be voting on it, but they will be equipped with your recommendation as well.
Could I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the application as presented.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the application as submitted. Mr. Mosley?
Public comment. I'm sorry, one moment, please. We have some gentlemen here that wanted to raise their hands.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
They didn't sign up for public comment, but the chairman can recognize them if he so chooses.
Certainly. I think that would be
If you
fair.
don't mind
Right
joining
up to
us.
My name's Randy Richardson, and I live out in Canyon Bluff Estates. And where the water, I'm the one that complained about, called the city on the mud, because it backs right up to my house. And after that big rain, half of my patio was covered with mud. And I live on the lot that all the drainage comes down right next to it. So when it rains real hard, it floods one side of my yard too. And the reason I came up here was, and Bob already showed me what they were gonna do. My question is how soon will that, I mean, are you gonna wait until the whole thing is done before that drainage is put in there?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you had a question for the developer themselves. That needs to be handled privately
Okay.
outside.
Okay,
All right?
that's all I've got.
Okay.
Thank
I didn't know I couldn't ask him a question.
We have one more if you choose to recognize him.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Jim Sullinger. I live down behind this division. My question is just procedural in nature. If we don't have the engineering information yet, can we adequately decide whether we would move forward on the planning? In other words, especially if we're going to vote next week on both prelim and approval,
Right.
don't we want to assure ourselves that the engineering
This
the
this
mo-
does happen
requirements?
frequently, and it's a great question. What we're looking at is the plat. If something goes a little bit awry from the site plan, we take care of it on the original end. But typically with our engineer, they hammer it out and the site plan is a little bit different from the plating process. Our engineer has taken a look. He actually heard Mr. Richardson's complaint earlier and kind of took a look at the runoff issue that was there. They are considered two different issues. This is the plat for how we will keep it for records as far as property lines and those kinds of things. The site plan itself is what's being reviewed from the engineers and to determine that it is a safe, environmentally conscious for neighborhood.
Okay, and so in other words, my question was procedural. It is ordinary that we would preliminary vote on this in approval,
Correct.
even without this information?
Correct. You would have, the plat, again, is more of a legal matter more than an operational standpoint.
Okay, well, I just want to make a comment then, if I could, that the runoff issues, and I don't really have any issue whatsoever with the plat or any plans that the Powells have for this at all. But I think there's a lot of downstream concern here. It's not unusual. We're talking about 2.5 inches, but if I were to show you what we call a rainfall rate has little to do with how much volume of water we get, more about how much we get in a period of time. We get numerous annual rainfall amounts of that volume annually. That's not unusual at all. The question is, we got it for a long time last week, so that added to the volume. But I do think we need to make sure we handle the maximum flow rate on this.
And I've got my card. I can put you in touch with our city engineer if you'd like, and you can ask any questions to him. I'm not a PE by any means, and so.
It was procedural. It seems to me that the city's PE should approve this, so these gentlemen have the right information to move forward. That was my procedural question.
Are you talking about what happens way downstream?
Well, I'm talking about the whole thing, just the whole thing in terms of, if it can't drink at all, it's going to go above grade. When it goes above grade, that's essentially what happened last week. That's going to happen in maximum rainfalls anyway. We know that. But have we engineered it so it handles at least the frequent high rain event? That was the question I had. That's all. And it's procedural. It seems to me the city engineer would want to know whether the plans from Stillwater have researched that adequately.
His plans are much more detailed as far as what they end up approving before actual construction can begin. And this is the same procedural efforts across the entire nation.
And our city engineers, Myers Engineering, will check and sign off on all of this before anything is totally approved. Is that correct?
Before any construction begins.
Totally signed off.
Dirt work can be moved at the risk of the property owner. That's what we explained to the property owner. Dirt work can be moved. Construction cannot begin until it is stamped by our engineer.
Okay, so we can at least assure the people here that all of the sign-offs will be done not only by the developer's engineer, but double-checked again by our city's engineer so that they're getting, is that correct?
Well, and in the short time I've been on the commission, we have approved a couple of housing additions. We've never personally heard anything about runoff before until this evening and voted on them, trusting that would be handled down the road.
How's it working out?
Haven't heard any
We
problem.
haven't had any problems, but it doesn't hurt to tie some things together. We appreciate
No,
your
I
comments on
don't
that.
really, just a procedural question to me, so thank you.
And here's my card. If you do have any other questions for me or the engineer, we'd love to help you out.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I guess maybe
okay.
final comment-wise on that, while we can't maybe answer Mr. Richardson's question, I would encourage Mr. Powell to at least look into the situation such that should this little massive rainfall happen again, you guys have got a pretty good handle on it. You certainly have the experience to handle that, and I know you will.
And I'm sorry for the delay. We actually did have a motion in a second
Yes, we did.
to approve the preliminary. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Thank you all for that. Okay, next discussion. Discussion and possible action to add a vice chairman role. Mr. Mosley, have you got any further comment on that, or would you like to hear from?
Just noting that there are two members missing tonight. I don't know if you guys want to pursue this. I just promised you that you would have it on the agenda for tonight. I did that more as of a obligation to you guys and following up on my word from last month. So if you choose to table it, that's perfectly fine, and you can have it on a future agenda item as well.
Yeah, I recommend we table it.
Okay.
Recommend it be tabled. Does
I
it
got
need a
a
motion?
motion.
And I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. We are going to table that issue and bring it back to you, hopefully December when we have a full meeting. So thank you very much. All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. Motion carries.
Okay, next is request for future items discussion. Mr. Mosley, anything?
We've got a few items that we're actually going to be following up on from last meeting that I knew that this was an opportunity or a possibility for us to not have a full DS here tonight, and so I just wanted to be cognizant of time and the agenda as well. So
The only
from
thing,
my end, if the commissioners have anything for future items.
Yeah.
Commissioners? No. I have one thing on it because I noticed our minutes last time, commission comments, we would like to see a note about carport and accessory buildings in the upcoming newsletter. I have the upcoming newsletter for November. We didn't make it.
No.
Is there any chance that we might look for it in December?
I'm not entirely sure when that's put together anymore. I'm on a different floor, and so I can't really remember the deadline. If we haven't passed it, I will try my hardest to make sure it's in there.
Could we make it a note that that is added again? Because that was in our October 8th minutes,
Correct.
and it didn't make it. Any other comments from commissioners on that? Item 9, staff comments. Mr. Mosley.
None.
Item 10, commissioner comments. Commissioner Coffin?
No.
Nothing? Commissioner Chapel?
No.
And I have none.
All right.
So do we need a motion to adjourn?
You do not. You can just slam your hand.
We're out of here.
Thank you all.
We're adjourned.